We're really going to take this to the next level, and I'm going to take you along for the ride. Day 0. I'm so excited. We're having the piano rebuilt. Now, I've had this piano for 35 years. It's a 1917 Steinway that I love to death. At the time when I got it, the soundboard had been replaced, the strings were replaced, and the pin block was replaced. The pin block is a place where the pins that hold the strings are. So all that stuff was done, but the action was original. What we're going to do is we're going to put in new hammers, we're going to put in new shanks, we're going to put in new repetitions, we're going to refelt the dampers. Our tech is a guy named Brian Whiton. He has a business called Big Wrench Piano. And Big Wrench Piano is a store in Brooklyn. I recommend you go over there. They are taking the action to the shop, and they're going to work on it there, and then they're going to bring it here, and they will put it back in and tweak for the final. Now, we're going to use wooden hammers. We'll use wooden shanks. The hammer is the part that hits the string, obviously. The shank is the piece of wood that connects it to the action. And then some of the stuff deeper in, we're going to use composite. Steinway parts are basically one gauge, kind of one size fits all, and they're more expensive. So we're going to go with some different parts, and he has preferences. And so we will be able to calibrate weights and sizes of things much more exactly than if we were using the original Steinway parts. We're really going to take this to the next level, and I'm going to take you along for the ride. We'll video what we do here today, but the next time we see things, we'll be in his shop, and we'll look at the progress.
If you want to ask questions, I'll answer them. Otherwise, I can just kind of talk you through what I'm doing as I do it.
Okay, that sounds great.
So what I'm going to do first is set some let-off samples. So I will have a reference of where the string height is in the shop.
Right.
And so when we replace the parts, I'm going to set the samples for the end sections, the ends of each section. And so when I replace the parts, I'll keep the end sections on until the very last, and I'll use those as a guide to set let off and drop and everything. And then, of course, it'll get dialed in back at the piano. But that's going to give me a guide, something to go by in the shop. Because otherwise, when you put new parts on, there's so many adjustments per note that if you just start dropping new parts on and you don't have a reference, you might get lucky and get it close, but more likely you're going to just be spending a bunch more time here, basically realizing that you're nowhere near the spec where you want to be because there's just too many variables. So to have some guides is going to be helpful, making it so they're just hitting the string. The idea is to be able to get as close as possible on the bench in the shop so I don't have to spend as much time here. And really that's all there is on this, and then pulling the dampers is going to take a little bit of time. The biggest issue with the piano is just tonal inconsistencies. Right. Timbral. Mm-hmm. Timbral is a better term. The hammers are just done. So good. Good for you guys. You played and wore them out. That's the whole name of the game, right?
Everybody's always lamenting that he died penniless, and the person says, I'd call that great timing and a hell of a budget.
That's excellent. I've never heard that. Now, when we see...
Now, you pulled that action out before, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because, if you look up here, when we take it out...
The drop screws are very high.
Yeah.
I'll take that into account, for sure. I mean,
yeah.
I'll take a measurement and make sure that if we don't have anything higher.
Cool.
Yeah, that's probably a result of the reps not matching the geometry of the shanks. That's most likely it. So now what I'm going to do is just take a measurement of the underlever height. So this is kind of interesting, and you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about when I pull the underlevers out. So Steinway used a system where they glued the flanges to the rail, probably into the 1920s and 30s. They glued the flange to the rail, and all the flanges are behind the damper wires. That's animal hide glue. And so at this point, with the glue being 100 years old, when it fails, there's no way to re-glue a single one. You can try to rig it up, but for proper glue joints.
Right.
And so it just floats. And sometimes the damper will work and sometimes not.
Right.
And the only way to fix it properly is to remove all the dampers, pull the tray out, and then re-glue it. And then put all the dampers back in. So like 3-4 hours of work to fix one flange. Now, if you're smart, you would re-glue all of them when you have it out.
Right.
But I've seen people not do that. And then they realized this mistake and went to a screw-on flange system. That's the whole idea of placing back action. Should there be an issue, should it need an adjustment, you can just remove one at a time. Then there's another issue. Do you use Sastanudo pedal ever?
I love that thing. I think it's genius. I can't figure out how it works. Mechanically, I don't know how it works.
It's interesting. It's a geometry issue as well. Each of the damper under levers, which is basically the body of each individual damper, has a little tab that protrudes. And there's an arc on the back of the action. You can see that brass rail. Brass rail that goes about 3/4 of the way from the base to the treble.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That pivots, that swings. You see how it's like a blade? Like it's a dowel, but with a protruding brass blade. So that pivots up and then catches dampers that are lifted up, which is obviously the premise of a Sastanudo rail, right?
Right.
The damper is up, and so that's what you want to catch in the middle pedal. So that middle pedal triggers that rotating blade, and that is set with just enough clearance where it catches and holds up the ones that are up, but it misses the ones that are down. However, here's another issue that you may have run into. With this older system, you have a fixed tab, meaning the tab basically sticks out of the damper lever and there's no give to it. And so if you're holding the damper up and you play other notes, the fixed tab will ram into the back of the bottom of the Sastanudo rail once it's engaged, and you'll feel this hard stop almost. The modern system has a breakaway, like a basketball rim, right? When if you dunk, it comes with you. Like spring loaded.
Gotcha.
So the modern system has a breakaway tab, so you don't feel that hard hit, because it's not pleasant, and you can regulate around it to a certain extent, but it's not ideal. A picture will be worth 1,000 words, which I can show you. So this is the fixed tab system that I was talking about. So this is the damper underlever system.
Right.
You're developing some sluggishness here. It's not not crazy. This system seems to hold up, given that it is in use all the time like this. These wear out faster. But here's what I'm talking about. These flanges are glued to this, and they pop up because it takes an upward force.
Right.
And they pop up, and then they just float, and there's all the dampers come out from this. This is basically like this. This pivots. That's what causes these to lift in group, but then they lift individually for the key. And so when one of them comes unglued, it just floats, and then the damper moves around, and there's no way to get in there to re-glue it because you got all the dampers coming out of these.
Right.
So you have to remove every one and take it out and re-glue them. What I've done to reinforce original systems is put a reinforcement strip. But again, you also have this fixed tab. So this is what I'm talking about. This comes up, there's no breakaway.
Right.
The modern ones have a spring and they go down. So this hits this lip.
Right.
And you'll literally hear a hard stop when if the Sastanudo pedal is engaged and you're playing other notes that aren't engaged, you'll hit this bottom thing, and you're not going to have your standard keystroke. You'll just be like a choked, almost like an old Rhodes. Like that weird bottom of the keystroke of a Rhodes. Like, it's fighting you.
Right.
So those two things are the main reason why you would upgrade. I mean, that, and also given the fact that this is 100 some years old. That's why you would upgrade the damper underlever system or the damper back action. So that's that. As far as the top stack goes, so this is called the top stack. This is the keyboard. Right away, even when I play those, you hear that little eek.
Yeah.
That's the dry knuckle.
Oh, yeah.
Very dry. And and you're going to develop inconsistent friction in the flanges. The hammers have been filed. The hammer should be much bigger than filed and filed.
Oh, yeah, filed and filed.
Harder felt underneath. The closer to the core, the harder the felt is. The more you file, the more you take away the soft felt, and you just get closer and closer to that core.
Right.
If you picture what would happen if you came down to here, you just have a wooden.
Right.
And sometimes you see that on pianos that at the top they're so worn out, it's just wood because there's not a lot of felt. Look at how close you are to the wood.
Yeah, yeah.
So it'll just be clink, 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 if it's worn out.
Right.
You're getting to that felt.
Mm-hmm.
You can.
I definitely noticed it, man.
Yeah. So that's the number one reason why you would replace the hammers. Then the repetition is like a transmission for each note.
Right.
Oh yeah, this one has a broken jack.
Right, yeah.
I forgot about that. So these guys, the same thing, consistency of flange is the main reason why you would replace. And then where you got your leather here, you've got the jack tail, which is broken. So that's a two-piece jack tail. I think I mentioned that in the email. It's an L that's glued. It's like a tongue and groove. And that glue joint goes, and then all of a sudden you get a key that's blocking. Like the hammer comes up and hits the string, and you feel it hang on the string for a second.
Oh yeah, that's the top one.
Yeah, exactly. That's.
I mean, you almost never play it, so hadn't been a big deal.
Yep. So that's a sign that's gonna fail. That's the thing when with pianos, there's 88 keys and there's 40 different adjustments per each key, and there's tiny little glue joints, and they never break all at the same time.
Right.
So the idea is you don't want to get nickeled and dimed on repairs. Like, well, this broke 2 months later. Well, now this one broke.
Right.
Well, now this one broke. So, in a way, you rebuild or it makes sense to just do the rebuild all at once, and then you get the most consistency as well with new parts. So that's a nutshell. I mean, after that, like if you look at like the weight of hammers, we weigh each one. Even out of the box, new, you get, obviously heavier in the bass and lighter in the treble. Right. But if it's not a linear relationship, it's more of a curve. But it's like this. It's kind of like a stock market over time.
Right, gotcha.
It's not smooth.
Right.
And we calibrate to the 10th of a gram, the weights of the hammers. So which helps with the consistency. And then you could, if the final frontier would be to reweight the keys. But I'll give you a full report of all the specs and make sure. Okay. Obviously, we make sure it feels right and sounds right. That's the most important thing. Absolutely. But everything is related. The back check leathers are also pretty dry. You can hear there's looks like some type of a spill. Feel that?
Ouch. That wasn't me. Yeah,
really. It's common. It's common.
So while I'm thinking of it, we did also talk about replacing a few of the plastic parts on top of the keys.
Is that from fingernail?
Yeah, I think it's from my fingernail. Someday, maybe we'll redo the case and everything like that, but it might be nice to look at what it would cost to just do the lid.
Yeah. I've got a guy that just can do the lid and like fall board if you want.
Right.
Just like the parts. You could remove all the parts except for the rim. So you can do the fall board, music, key slip, and then I can clean up. I'm pretty good at like cleaning up furniture repair. Like when we're back with this, it's going to be myself and Eric and good full day on the return.
Right.
Okay. Well, yeah, that would be your basics about what we do. But you're welcome to come to the shop, and I mean, I'll send pictures.
Yeah.
It's always fun.
And I think we will. I think it'll be a great outing.
Yeah, it's fun.
Fantastic. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed Brian's visit. If you're really into the piano, you learned a lot, because I sure did as well. If you want to subscribe, that's really great. I'll see you next time when we're going to visit Big Wrench and check out his space and check out the progress of this action.